From NAB in Las Vegas, Jim Tierney of Digital Anarchy updates us on Transcriptive, Flicker-free, and more. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Kolide sends employees important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for their Linux, Mac, and Windows devices, right inside Slack. Meet compliance objectives in a remote-first world without resorting to rigid device management. Try Kolide for 14 days free. Visit kolide.com/MacVoices to sign up today. That's KOLIDE.com/MacVoices. Enter your email when prompted to receive your free Kolide gift bundle after trial activation. Kolide.com/MacVoices. MacVoices is in Las Vegas for NAB. I'm Chuck Joyner, and I have a life-size Jim Tierney with me, as opposed to the Jim Tierney I've been seeing for the past 3 years on my screen. Yep. Jim, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's nice to be finally back among people.
Yes, exactly, and in real size too.
Life size, and not. You can see if people actually have legs, and it's great.
So, how have things been since I guess we last talked? I don't even know when. The last 3 years just are kind of a blur. But what are you focusing on this year at the show?
Mostly we came out with a new version of Flicker-free about 3 months or so ago. So there's some improvements there. Talking about some of the improvements we've made to Transcriptive and Power Search. And that probably came out about a month or two ago. So there's no brand new announcements at the show, but we've done some pretty significant stuff to both Transcriptive and Flicker-free. So just kind of really talking about that.
The transcription thing seems to be catching more and more fire. It seems like I'm seeing transcription integrated into more services, people wanting to do more transcription for a variety of reasons. And you and I talked about it before, editing reasons, presentation reasons. So where does Transcriptive fit into where things are at the moment?
Well, I mean, the interesting thing about Transcriptive is that, the real strength behind it is not just the fact that it does transcription, but that it allows you to search all of that, allows you to make edits with those transcripts. Adobe added in transcription for sequences into Premiere, and that's really designed for doing captions. You can't transcribe clips, and so with Transcriptive you can transcribe. If you've got 50 clips and 100 hours of footage or whatever, you can transcribe all of that. That makes all of that searchable. It allows you to create rough cuts based on the transcripts from these clips. So it's just a much more flexible tool than what Premiere has built in. And we're really trying to take it just beyond hey, you can transcribe stuff, and make it a tool that you can take those transcripts and do some cool stuff with.
Yeah, and I mean, we haven't gotten to a point where we can search audio and video quite without transcribing, and that definitely has some advantages. There are times I know I've watched something or I've seen something, and I really am not looking forward to watching it again for an hour, trying to outguess where I think it is, in the mix. It's much nicer to have that transcription.
Yeah, and Power Search is a really cool way. I mean, it's basically a search engine for Premiere, where, if you've got everything transcribed, Power Search is going to search through all that stuff, give you search results just like you would have in the search engine, and you can click on the search results and it'll jump to that point in time in the media, it'll jump to that point in time in your sequence. So it really just basically becomes a search engine, and it's a really cool way of using the transcripts.
It seems like we've talked about transcription so much over the past few times we've talked. Where do things stand with all your plugins? Are they just kind of cruising along, or are you making improvements to those?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we came out with a new version of Flicker-free about 3 months or so ago, which does a much better job of handling Flicker if you have handheld camera or fast-moving subjects, so like dancers or sports or whatever, or just handheld. The first version didn't really handle that scenario very well, but we've made some pretty good improvements, and we also GPUized it, so it's a lot faster than it was. And then it has these motion compensation parameters that really lets you take moving footage and deflicker that as well.
Is that still a major concern, given some of the newer cameras?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to what lights you have. If you're shooting a wedding and you're under hotel LED lights, and they're dimmed, that really throws off, how fast they're refreshing, and that's still a really big problem with, whether you're shooting slow motion or whether you're shooting under LEDs or whether you're shooting in another country or whatever. It's like there's a lot of cases where you still end up with rolling bands or just the footage is flickering for some reason, and it's still one of our best sellers for sure.
I guess I don't shoot weddings, so that's why I probably have never really run into it that much. But that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you can totally control your lighting, then it's not that big of a deal, right? But especially in situations where you're shooting on location, or say you're shooting in a museum or a hotel or like whatever, and you don't have complete control over the lighting, often what we'll see is, a lot of times, like, if you're shooting here at the show, you've got light. I mean, you don't have lights here, but you'll have your lighting set up, and then you'll have your background, and somewhere in the background is a bunch of LED lights that are completely not synced with the camera and flashing like crazy, even though the lighting on the subject looks great and is not a problem. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes in. It's so great, but then you have a street light or an exit sign or an LED display or something in the background that just goes haywire.
Otherwise the shot's spoiled, but you fix it.
Yeah. And $149 for plugins is a lot cheaper than a reshoot.
Yeah. In just about every case I can think of.
Especially for a wedding.
Geez. Weddings. I don't know who decided this. Having weddings become this major industry was a good idea, but yeah.
It's a tough one, yeah.
It really is. I'm glad I don't work in it. Anything else new? I mean, I know we've been trying to kind of keep up as the lockdown occurred.
We upgraded Beauty Box a little bit, made it a little bit faster, made it compatible with the M1 and some of the changes that Adobe and Apple have made. So there's a new version of that. But we haven't really, we're looking at doing a major upgrade of Beauty Box probably either later this year or early next year. We have some other stuff that we're working on that we are not announcing yet. But we look for some cool announcements probably in the next 3 months or so.
Great. Well, come back and talk to us when the time comes.
We absolutely will.
I think I've been teased is what happened here. The website where folks can learn everything about everything we've talked about.
DigitalAnarchy.com. You can also email us at sales@digitalanarchy.com. Yeah. All right,
Jim,
thanks,
good to see you. Good to see you. Folks, we'll have more from NAB in Las Vegas. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.